Bonjour, hors d'oeuvre part 2. Yes, Paris 24. The athletics program is underway, and this is Chew the Fat. We're calling this hors d'oeuvre because we're coming to you daily with a tasty morsel, looking back at what's happened in the athletics program and also looking forward, and particularly to the Kiwis, and that's certainly going to be the case today. Tony Rogers, welcome in. Our second hors d'oeuvre for Chew the Fat for Paris 24, and we eased into it yesterday with the walks. Now, unfortunately, I had to do my day job, although my day job was a night job last night, so I did miss the walks, but I didn't score too many points in our head-to-head battle. So what did happen out there on the streets of Paris?
Yeah, g'day, Mark. It's good to be back. And it was, as we said, we eased into it with the walks yesterday, and we're going to pick up speed in the Stade de France this evening as we go to the first day in track and field. We didn't do too well in the men's, but we threw out the world number one. We did from our young lad, Jonah Kropp, took that, and I took his follow. So between us, we only got one medalist, and that was Alvaro Martin. But went to someone who's performed well on the stage, the big stage before, and that's Brian Pintado of Ecuador, and he was delighted to take a gold ahead of Caio Bonfim from Brazil, and he was running a cheeky race the whole time with Martin from Spain third. Pleased to say that we did a little bit better in our selections in the women's, both picking the silver and bronze medalists. Maria Perez from Spain was silver, and Jemima Montag from Australia. She ran a great race to get her first major medal. But yeah, a bit of not a surprise really, because the Chinese are always up there. But Yang from China took the gold. So it was a good start, and the medals were shared around between the nations, so to speak, yesterday. So with the Spanish being lucky enough to pick up two, a silver and a bronze. So, I don't know how many people took our advice on the punting, but I took one extra, and I managed to pick up some money off Pintado because I decided that he looked too good at the odds that he was at $11.50.
Nice work. Although I wasn't able to watch the race, Tony, what I did notice just leading into the race was that Jemima Montag got the blows, and she went out to about $8 when they got underway from $5.50 when we were talking yesterday. But anyway, she defied that and she picked up a medal, which is terrific. Now things really do speed up, don't they? We're going to talk about the 100 metres for women, which of course features our very own Taranaki Tearaway, based in Auckland for a few years, of course, Zoe Hobbs. And round one tonight, Tony, and I'm sure the people we're talking to, we probably don't have to point out just how difficult it's going to be. Now, the TAB odds, she's 100 to 1, and possibly you could add another 0 to that in terms of her winning this title, and probably the key, I think, Tony, in terms of judging success, certainly making a semi-final would be an outstanding effort, but she is an outside chance to make the final. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, she's definitely an outside chance to make the final, and I'm sure that's the way she'll be viewing it. Her goal will be sure to make sure she gets into those semis. And just a little thing that we must note here, that the first part of the 100, if people turn on their tallies tonight, they'll see some preliminary women's hundreds, which won't feature Zoe. Those are the sort of the non-qualifiers' opportunity to make the final draw, so to speak, before we go to the first round and proper, if you like. So the qualifiers usually are made up from the athletes that get an opportunity to run as their one qualifier from some of the smaller nations. And so then they'll go through to the proper round, which is round one a little bit later in the program. So yeah, just a look out there for our viewers. But Zoe, yeah, we'd hope she gets through unscathed today. There's no repper charges in the 100, probably because they've got that preliminary rounds and they can get the well-seeded runners going through to the next round. So yeah, we'd hope that she can make it through to the semis.
It's got to be hot action on the track, Tony. There are a couple of notable defections. Sherika Jackson not running, Elaine Thompson-Herah as well. So Sha'Carri Richardson is actually a hot favourite, $1.60. She is the world champion. It is her Olympic debut. I think she clocked 10.75 in the US trials. But is it an open and shut case, Tony? And can the incredible Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price add another gold medal? She's got 3, 2 in the 100 and 1 in a 4x100 relay, 8 medals overall. It's the old against the new, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. and she is a hot favourite, which is surprising. And yeah, to see Shelly-Ann Fraser paying $11 to win the gold is pretty amazing, isn't it? With what she's got in the bank already. I quite like the second favourite there, which is Julian Alfred. Julianne, she's from St. Louis, one of the smaller nations, but she's been running really well in the Diamond League, and she's paying 425. So yeah, and then of course Deanna Asher Smith's always a chance. Only has to cross the ditch, so to speak, to Paris, and she's run there plenty of times. So be good to see how this pans out. But yeah, Richardson definitely the hot favourite. And after those of you that may have been watching the Sprints Netflix, you'll find this event quite intriguing, I'm sure.
It's a very cool series, I think, that, and certainly heightened our appetite for this. So the 100-metre women's round one underway tonight, and good luck to Zoe. 1,500 metres, we've got Sam Tanner in action as well. New Zealand TAB is 150 to 1 in what is an extraordinary competitive competition. And again, Tony, I'm sort of looking to you in terms of a guide. Sam obviously be looking to get through to the semi-finals, and again, be very tough to make the final given the depth in the 1,500 metres, but he's certainly capable.
Yeah, very capable. And you know, I always worry about Sam, particularly when we see the size of the heats tonight. But that's what's the great thing about having some repecharges, is that we've got 1,500 metres men all battling for a top six to go through directly to the semi-final tonight. And there's 15 in the field. And if it doesn't go out with any sort of pace, which sometimes happens in these heats, it's all about the man who's in the right position and maybe the biggest and strongest to bust their way out of things. So that's always a worry for Sam. So it'll be interesting to see what tactics he adopts. Obviously doesn't really want to come through the repecharges. It means an extra race. He's only raced lightly. As I think we've heard, he's been training with Hayden Wild. I've been doing some altitude training, I believe, up in Andorra. I hope that's the correct information. He's had one run in London just last week. He ran a 3:35 coming down, so he should be right on for this, hopefully. And let's hope he can get through to the semi-finals without having to take the repecharge pathway. But yeah, hot race this. Wow, how many people have we got in there that could take the medals? But the hot favourite, of course, is Ingebrigtsen.
Yes, look, the 23-year-old Norwegian, but we have expected him to win the last two World Championships, and he hasn't. He's been beaten by two Britons, one of whom won't be there, but the man who will be, Josh Kerr, who was able to beat him last year. Tipped by you, Tony Rogers, I've got to say. Ingebrigtsen, $1.35, Josh Kerr, $2.50. The market's kind of saying it's a two-person race, but I'm sure the Kenyan Tim Chiriot will have something to say about that. He's currently at $11, and the highest rated of the USA runners, Cole Hocker's currently at 13. So, Tony, you've had a good record in this over the last couple of years, and you're tipping competition with me. So I'm very interested to hear your thoughts, of course, in a race that's very much in your wheelhouse.
Well, I guess when we've seen what's been going on in Paris so far, it's pretty hard to go past the local French to come in for a medal, hopefully. And that's Izzadine Habs. He's run 3:29 for a PB, runs 3:30 this year. And of course, he's going to have the home crowd behind him. So I like the Frenchman, Habs, or Habis, as you probably pronounce it correctly in French. But the Kenyans are going to be in there, as we've said, with Chip Chariot and Kip Correa, those guys. But I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the American Yared Naguse. I think he runs some pretty smart races and has got the talent. So yeah, it's wide open, particularly if something happens to Ingebrigtsen. But we hope that doesn't happen because we want the best in the final. And yeah, but it's going to be interesting to watch these 1,500s over the progression of these rounds. And the repecharges will just add an extra string to the bow if someone has a bit of bad luck in the heats.
Yeah, most certainly. That's going to be intriguing. They're sort of talking about Ingebrigtsen and Kerr like Cohen and F.A.T back in your day in terms of a rivalry, Tony. And just while we're on that, I better explain. It's very cold here where I am at the moment, but I am wearing the scarf for a reason. My sister knitted this for me. It's close to 50 years old. That's the quality of wool. And Tony, when you were in the final in 1984 in LA, this is what I was waving in the lounge.
Well, it's good to hear that, Mark, because it was probably a cold August day 40 years ago, just like we're having in Wellington this week. But yeah, good Kiwi wool lasts a long time. But yeah, thanks for sporting that. As you can see, I'm wearing another Kiwi top from Athens actually today. So yeah.
Excellent. Let's go to the shot put, because we're well represented, of course, with Tom Walsh and also with Jacko Gill. But we've talked about this a lot on Chew the Fat, the strength of the shot put, and obviously we've had a dominant force in Ryan Krauser of the US, who's looking for his third consecutive gold medal. But there's some other shot putters that are really starting to change the face of this, particularly the Italian Fabri. Before we talk about the leading chances, though, Tony, I guess I've been slightly concerned about Tom's results leading into this, and I'm wondering whether it's going to be possible for him to medal again in a really deep field.
Yeah, it's interesting because I look at the pathway that Tom and Jacko have taken towards Paris, and they're completely opposites almost, aren't they? And people should note that Jacko got the better of Tom by a few centimetres in their most recent clash, which was in the Diamond League in London when Jacko did 21.11 to Tom's 21.06. But yeah, Tom's had about 7 competitions, I think it is, in Europe since our summer, whereas Jacko's just had 1 here and then he's had 1 in Europe. So that'll be a really interesting battle, but it brings the best out of both of them, I'm sure, by the fact that they're chasing to be the number 1 Kiwi for a start. But yeah, Tom's got the big match temperament for the big game, and he's got a stock of medals in his drawer. Let's hope he can pull out another one at least. And yeah, I mean, his performances have been mediocre, but maybe we'd hope, Mark, that he's been in reasonably solid training while competing and putting a few dollars in the bank, which is really important for these athletes when they have the opportunity. So yeah, I'm sure he's been stacking in some of the tins, so to speak, and hopefully he's going to have freshened up even since London's Diamond League and come out and perform. But yeah, qualifying is going to be the first big hurdle tonight, and before they go for the final after that. So yeah, top 12 only, of course, and yeah, we've got some good depth in this field, as you mentioned.
Yeah, look, Tom's at 21, Jacko's at 150 to 1. Jacko has won the last 2 national titles here in New Zealand and, like you say, edged Tom at London. So I'm surprised at the enormous gap there. But, of course, we're wishing them both well, want to see them in the final. As you say, that's the crucial thing. Krauser, certainly the putter to beat, $1.60. Kovacs is 3.3. Tony, I'm very keen on Fabri, European champion, put close to 23 metres this year, pulled out a 22.52 to beat Krauser in the final Diamond League. I might be prepared to have a wee dabble on the 4.5 on the Italian.
Yeah, definitely, Mark. We're in Europe, and the Europeans tend to thrive in their environment. Of course, Fabri's an Italian, so he'll get a lot of support locally, unless there's a French in the field, I'm sure. And there's another Italian in the field that's pretty well ranked as well, and that's Zane Ware. But and he's at pretty good odds, that for sure, for what he's done. He's definitely ranked to get a medal because he's pretty low on to win a medal. Whereas I think that's something we should look at. I can't believe there's $30 difference to win a medal between Tom Walsh and Jacko Gill. Tom's paying $4.80 to take a medal, as Jacko's out to 34. But the other one that's interesting, you always got to work out when it's time that the guard's going to change, so to speak. And we've got Joe Kovacs in there with a fantastic record at this level, of course, from America. But then there's the young American Ryan Otterdale, who's performing pretty well. And he's an outsider. He's an American that's striving to be number 1. So, yeah, some really fascinating opportunities for these athletes in this shot put.
Tony, we better talk about the men's 10,000 metres because the medals are up for grabs, and I guess, as you'd expect, it looks like a potential African domination here.
Yeah, well, the odds on the TAB for where the medals will go by region, they're only offering a couple of options, but so I think it's $1.01, which is hotter than the All Blacks to win a test against, say, one of the African nations like Kenya or something, for the medals to go, or the gold medal to go to Africa. But yeah, it's just, they're all stacked up, aren't they? And it's intriguing if you go back and do a bit of a profile on some of these athletes. And there's Olympic champions in there, there's world champions in there, there's guys with the fastest time in the world this year, over 5 and 10K. It's difficult to pick, but it usually comes down to the Ethiopians and the Kenyans, with the Ugandans an opportunity as well. And that's where we're going to need to make some big decisions if we're going to put some money somewhere and put our own selections to help us on our points table, Mark.
Yeah, well, Chipta guys at 240, Kajelka at 310, Kiplomo 425, Aragawi at $6, Baraja at 7. It's like I'm reading out a greyhound market, Tony, which would suggest that there probably are about 8 winning chances.
Yeah, well, Solomon Baraga, the Ethiopian, he's the current champion. He's run pretty well already this season as well. The other one I like, of course, is Aragawi, who's two times world cross country. He's been the silver medalist, and again this year he's run a 26:31 this season. And you've mentioned Kajelka. Well, he's always in the mix, but he's yet to win one of those major titles, it seems, and maybe that's going to continue to elude him. And then there's a number of Kenyans, and I'm sure there's always going to be a Kenyan in there. So it's going to be really interesting to pick the winners here, as well as the Chepta guy, as you mentioned, who's the Olympic champion over 5K and finished second over 10K and 3 times world champion. So yeah, real tough to pick the winners here, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to come from one of those 3 nations, unless we get a surprise.
It'll be a great contest. The other thing that's getting underway, of course, is the decathlon, Tony. Gee, they earn their medals. The German Leo Nussbauer, hope I'm pronouncing it close to correctly, is $1.50 dominant favourite here. Damien Warner, the Canadian, around 4.5. We've talked about the French and the French being at home, and Kevin Meyer, I think it's around $7. He looks a pretty decent chance in this decathlon, and he'll be cheered every step of the way.
Yeah, definitely. Well, your German there, Neum Bayer, is definitely top of the ranks with, I think he scored 8-9 earlier this year. I've gone for the Estonian Johannes Erm. He's done particularly well on the world stage, always up in the mix, and he's paying $13 to take the gold. And I think he won Gotsis, which is kind of the Grand Slam event for decathletes earlier this year. And then Damien Warner, we can never rule him out. The Canadian, I think he's attending his 4th Olympics, and he's medaled a couple of times. So the old hands do come through when it comes to these big events and how they pace themselves, particularly. So yeah, that'll be an intriguing start to the track program tonight when the decathlete 100 meters heats get underway. I think back to my year, and we had the great Daley Thompson of Great Britain was fighting it out against a couple of Germans, and then second behind him was Higginson from Germany. So yeah, the Germans have got a great history in this. So yeah, your pick there is probably a good option.
Yeah, look, aren't they extraordinary athletes, the decathletes? We did talk the women's high jump. It's a slightly bigger hors d'oeuvre than we served up yesterday, but we're getting pretty excited because we're launching full into the athletic program, Paris 24. Yaroslava Mahuchik from the Ukraine has been quite phenomenal this year, and she's at $1.22 with the New Zealand TAB here. Bet responsibly, R18, of course. I want to talk about a couple of Australians here, though, Tony, because they're Australians that you've brought out to New Zealand for the Capital Classic, and they've really gone on with things, particularly Nicola Olaslagas, who's the second favourite for the gold medal, and Eleanor Patterson, who I'm picking might be your value tip here. What are you seeing in the high jump?
Yeah, well, both the Australian girls have definitely well performed over the last major champs, world champs and Olympics, that's for sure, and the Commonwealth Games. And yeah, Nicola Oslagas, or Nicola McDermott as she was when she competed at the Capital Classic, and was second to Eleanor Patterson, who set the Oceania record, remember, of 199 at that time. They've both gone on to jump beyond 2 meters, which is fantastic, and Oslagas is definitely deserving of her ranking at second favourite. So yeah, for the recent world record holder, Mayochek, it's going to be interesting to see if she can repeat that. And she that was fabulous. 2:10 she did there in the Diamond League in Paris, and we know it must be a great jumping surface if they've done that. So this should be a hot event. And yeah, we've got particular interest because of our Aussie connections, I guess, with Patterson and Oslagas. So I'm probably going to plump for Patterson to pick up a medal at $6.80 on the tab.
Superb. Well, thank you, Tony. It's been terrific to look through the first full day of athletics. Looking forward, obviously, tonight, Zoe Hobbs, 100-metre heats, Sam Tanner, 1,500-metre heats, and then early tomorrow morning, the qualifying for the shot put with Tom Walsh and Jacko Gill. And we will wrap this all up in our third hors d'oeuvre for Chew the Fat. Tomorrow, you catch us about the same time. You'll find the hors d'oeuvre reviewing what we've seen and looking forward to what's to come. The Athletics Paris 2020.